Well, hey there. Do you like listening to people with boring voices complain about video games? Probably not. You should get out. You should leave. Because I'm talking about aim-down sights. We're gonna have fun. Lots of fun to be had here.
Running out of faith. Be careful who you tell. I'm running out of faith. Be careful who you tell. Whoa, whoa. It's blacking in my name. The army never came. It's water under the bridge. Be careful who you tell. Oh, 'cause you gotta look in the eye.
Now, before we get down to it, I would like to acknowledge that there are a few exceptions to what I'm about to discuss, but we'll get to those eventually. In most cases, ADS is a useless gimmick that detracts from the gameplay experience of a shooter. The primary use of aim-down sights is an aiming guide to communicate a bullet's path to the player in the absence of a crosshair. The idea is acceptable in theory, as it doesn't detract from the game's immersion, and it demands a trade-off of the player's time, movement speed, and spatial awareness. Unfortunately, this system is far too easy to circumvent, which leads to secondary mechanics being tied in that damage the core aspects of the genre, not to mention the very criteria that aim-down sights exists to fulfill. All it takes to bypass the mechanic is a mark on the center of your monitor, and the most basic purpose of iron sights is eliminated, which is what causes said poor design decisions to be made. I personally feel the main culprit among these damaging mechanics is random bullet spread. This mechanic causes bullets to fire off-center when firing from the hip, thus discouraging hip fire. The problem here is that the system adds a random element to games that intend to pit players against one another in a match of skill, not luck. The emphasis on skill-based gameplay is exactly why the genre has been so widely celebrated among competitive gamers throughout the years. I also have to mention the effect bullet spread has on a game's immersion, which is yet another aspect of the genre that's widely celebrated among its fans. Given that your gun is always trained on the center of the screen no matter which way it's being held, having bullets exit the barrel in different directions based on your aiming style is nothing short of absurd. There are far more effective ways of representing the lack of guidance in the player's aiming, which takes us back to those exceptions that I mentioned at the beginning. There are a handful of games that take measures to prevent players cheating the aim-down sights mechanic, while also bringing some real gameplay value to the table. Titles such as Receiver and Insurgency employ an iron sight system whose sole purpose is still an aiming guide. However, there are several systems augmenting the mechanic to demand more of the player's awareness and judgment that leave nothing to chance randomization, and also respect the player's immersion. I took this footage straight from Total Biscuit's channel, so I'll let it speak for itself.
Free aim is one of the features in our game where you can basically move your weapon around freely without actually moving your camera. It prevents people from, putting a crosshair, a dot in the middle of their screen, and you don't always absolutely know where your bullet's going to go. It's based on when your weapon is pointing, and the reason why our weapons are larger on the screen compared to what people might wonder about is because we still want to, even though we have this free aim area, we still want to allow people to freely shoot without using their iron sights with relative ease. And with the weapon sort of larger on the screen and in a position where you can sort of see where it's angled, it allows you to have a better idea of where you're shooting if you're not in iron sights.
You see, now that actually does make sense. That would have been a complaint from me, but it's a good reason and rationale. Actually, I'm just looking at it right now, and I'm actually going to demonstrate this for the audience. I'm going to try and aim with what appears to be, I think this looks like a Mauser rifle or something along those lines. Just kind of shoot in this direction. You'll notice the weapon is pointing in the direction that the bullet is going, even though I'm not aiming down iron sights. And of course, I have no crosshair because this is a fairly realistic game.
Designs like this are what iron sights should be. An immersive aiming guide that single-handedly thwarts cheating the system while keeping the core celebrated aspects of the FPS genre fully intact. The solution to this problem seems simple. Balance the systems you choose to include in your game with equally interesting mechanics that complement the gameplay. Don't fall back on the cop-out solution of statistic-driven gameplay. And if that's too difficult, don't bother with iron sights. Classics like Quake 3 are as fun as ever and don't feel the least bit outdated in their shooting mechanics, and it's not like recent shooters like Counter-Strike Go or Natural Selection suffer for their exclusion of aim-down sights. I mean, there aren't any hordes of iron sight fanboys rallying to have the mechanic shoehorned into every shooter in existence, right? Right guys?